Guys, we're back. We're back from the pond and we're
Oh,
all feeling things.
The last
What an
episode.
episode. Season 3, episode 10, season finale, not series finale. Round of applause for that.
Season 4. Season
Season
4.
4. Season 4.
Season 4.
They couldn't be done. They couldn't be done.
No, there's still so much to explore.
So much to uncover, so much to learn, all of that stuff. Thank goodness. I know, Sven, you posted our first short, right?
announced the season 4.
Love that.
Mhm.
Love that.
Wasn't the first one out there, but it's nice to get it out there.
Mhm.
Continuing to
And
spread the word.
we don't know if the petition helped, but thank everybody who signed the petition. We
Mhm.
do know that the producers of the show saw that
Oh,
and,
really?
and they did comment on it that they love to see that, and it kind of made their work not really validated, but made them feel good that it was out there.
Mhm.
So
Power in numbers, guys.
congrats
Power
to
in
everybody. Thank you,
numbers.
everybody.
Good job, guys.
Okay, this episode.
Oh,
This was one of the most beautiful episodes of any series I think I've ever seen.
I
yeah.
loved it. Definitely one of my favorites. I want to say top 3 without thinking about all the other episodes, but it could be my favorite episode so far.
They did
It's
things
special.
so well in
Mhm.
this.
Yeah.
The writing was so good, the acting was so good, where we saw so many of the characters like storylines go felt so right. Like
hmm
it was really great.
It was good. I'm one of the rewatches I did. I was watching and I looked
Love
up and
them.
there's 3 minutes left, and I'm like, where did it go? It was so good. It just you have no idea how the time passes, and you're just and the show's over.
Uh-huh.
It's so sucked in.
I
Uh-huh.
love that we got so many answers about so many things that like weren't even on our radar for wanting answers for. So many dots were connected that I didn't even know were on the same like page, I feel like. And then like the cliffhanger that we're left with, like your kinfolk over here, Sven. Sven Bishop, that's your name today.
It is.
You were
And
over here looking like Sam Bishop's cousin at the family reunion, all dapper and handsome today. That big like cliffhanger that we're left with, like felt right. I remember like season 1 and season 2 with those cliffhangers. I was like, what? What? This one was like,
Mhm.
let's see where this goes.
Mhm.
And
Uh,
we knew that Sam was going to be something more.
Yes,
Yes.
you did
You've
talk
been
about
waiting
that
for
early
it.
on.
I mean, he himself talked about it, and I like the fact that it left it open for us. Like he
Yep.
didn't answer it right away
Yeah.
Mhm.
because we'll talk about this later, but when he's standing at the pond at the end of the episode, the thought is, oh, he must be a Landry because he knows how to jump back and forth through the pond. But
Hmm.
I think it's a misdirect by the team that he's standing by the pond, which means he knows about it,
Hmm.
Mhm.
but they didn't show him go into it. So that's
Mhm.
still leaving that for season 4. Can he or can he not? But I'm with KC up there where I'm thinking he's just an observer of the pond.
But the
Mhm. He
fact that we
knows.
knew like it was on our radar to look for him was fun, but like he had nothing to do with the episode and,
I
and just came like popping out of like right field and was like you said, like we didn't see anything of like pond jumping or time traveling or anything like that. He's just an audience member. It's just like Jacob's fine.
Yeah.
do
And a
you
connection to
want
me. A connection to me, Casey. I think like
right.
that link was a little bit
Yeah.
more like,
Do you
oh,
want
you are. Okay.
do you want my big theory now or at the end of when we get to the end of the episode talking about Sam standing by the pond?
At the end.
Okay. Remind me because
Yeah.
I think I've said it before that I think I've got Sam figured out, but I think I've got him this time. He's not getting it.
I'm excited to hear because every time you bring him up, I'm like, no, you're wrong. I
No, that's
disagree.
not
No,
it.
Oh,
That's
you're
not
gonna like
it.
this one. It's not too far out, and it kind of when you hear it, I think it'll fit. So, all
okay.
right.
I have a big theory today too, so don't let me forget it.
Okay. which
I
is,
have
go ahead.
About him.
undying love for Colton.
Yeah, you do. Who doesn't?
Who doesn't?
Colton's the best. Adult Colton, young Colton, any version of Colton.
Again, the casting for those two actors in those two roles, young Colton, adult Colton, like they have to be related. I'm not leaving that alone. Like
Perfect.
that is like so believable, especially in this episode when we see so many different scenes and ages of Colton and stuff like that and different parts and all that stuff. Like it flows together seamlessly.
That is,
Yeah.
it is the same person.
Yeah. And I know
Uh,
I am married to both of yours mother, but if she knew my obsession with adult Colton, she'd question it. Just the wholesomeness and I don't know. Him and Alice together in this episode,
yeah, let's
yeah,
talk about it.
Oh my
But I
gosh, he knew. He
started.
right.
knew everything.
And I'm trying to find the link because the two actors in this episode of Colton and Alice, they were nominated for a TV award, and I can't
Oh,
remember the name of it,
I saw
for the
that.
best performance of the week in a series. I
Hmm
mean, those two were amazing. Thank God they gave Alice some meat this week,
Oh, she was, yeah,
and they
so
gave her a
good.
lot because she was the main time traveler in every time period except the
Hmm
1800s. But
Yeah,
she was there with everybody. She knows the stories, and she delivered.
she really did.
She really did. So,
I love her so much. She's up there in one of my favorite characters, I think.
Oh, she topped the charts for me.
Not just the show, but like just like in my mind, like who are your favorite characters from like movies, shows, whatever? She's on the list now. I just love her.
Oh, she's so good.
yeah,
Okay.
this episode skyrocketed her.
But like biggest thing for me with this episode was Colton knew everything.
Yep.
There wasn't a single part of this story that we know that he didn't know at different parts, like everything.
And
Yeah.
when another heartbreak moment, there was plenty in this episode, but when he finally figured everything out and he told Dell, I will tell you, I will sit you down tomorrow. We will go over everything.
Uh-huh.
And
And that was the night.
that was the
Yeah,
night.
that was the night. But it was nice
So,
to see Dell remembering that.
yeah.
So then she could say, okay, because she clearly has been hurt by this betrayal, maybe that Colton was so perfect and now he's not 'cause he's keeping secrets from me. Why would he do that? And it's like, okay, he finally was going to share that. So that's probably nice for her.
Two
But
things with that. It's fun you brought up like when Colton like figured it all out and learned everything. Like not only did he like make his plan to like tell Dell and like sit down with her, but he also was just like I don't want to say unfazed because he was definitely like hit by it when he was like, oh my gosh. But
Yeah.
again, just like kept on going. Like, sure, steady, like, let me like make sure that Alice is okay and like tend to like her, like right after she says all this stuff and like starts sobbing to him. Like he just keeps on trucking through.
Yeah.
You just have
mhm.
so much respect for him. And you're just like,
Yeah.
ah. But then what was the second one that I had? I also want to throw in there this episode was totally a Dell redemption episode for me. It happened. Kendra,
She did
she
it.
did it.
She jumped into that pond. She went back to the wedding. It was cute. And then Kat was even like, "Do you want to go back? No, is it going to be too hard?" And she's like, "No, I'm staying." And I'm like, "Thank you." Like, because
Right.
it
She
doesn't,
opened the door.
I
right?
was
It
worried she was
doesn't
going
have
to
to be
get
that.
caught
Right.
Yeah.
because she was just like, I'm staying. She's rushing up in there, and I'm like, oh, she can't
Jasper
just
was
do
gonna have the
that.
camera rolling.
Yeah. Like, oh no.
Yeah.
No, she just like what's the quote? Like the quote, like once you lose everything, then you're finally free to do everything.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like she got to her rock bottom with her feelings and just like betrayal and like heartbreak and was just like, we're
Yeah.
going.
Because
Take me.
yeah,
And
she got
look
to
at what
the point.
happened.
Where
Like
she
all
was,
those positives that she was so like forgetful of or like couldn't see past the negative or like the fears or whatever. She like got a lot of beautiful memories and like reassurance, I feel like, in this episode.
And I got to
So much
point
more
out
enjoyable.
to what we talked about in the past and reconfirm that Dell definitely thought her selfish move was keeping Cole from his music.
Mm.
And when Alice played that tape for her, you just saw the look on her face of realization that she
Jasper for the win, man.
she didn't need to feel
yeah.
selfish about that, though she did all these years, but now she doesn't have to. And you
Yeah.
saw that
Mhm.
look of just realization and
Let it go.
yeah,
Right? Uh-huh. That was really special.
Jasper coming in clutch
Yeah.
again.
Good old Jasper.
Oh, Jasper, man.
I had a moment where I thought of like once they showed him, I thought of him being on the beach in the 1800s, and I was like, did we ever find out that was a thing?
We
But
never did.
I know, so whatever. But it was cool to see him come back and again, yeah, link
I,
all those.
I was looking in the background too of that wedding. There was a couple things I noticed.
Who was there? I was
I
looking.
was looking for a teen Rita to be in the background. Never saw her. And did you notice they gave the flowers to Fern and not to
Mhm.
Colton's mother?
And she smelled them.
Where is Colton's mother at?
I was
We know
wondering,
she's around because she didn't want Dell living in the house unmarried.
yeah, I was wondering
They
if
didn't show her.
because they're so intentional about those things and even like some theme that we didn't know existed until now, but oh, we go back and it's like, oh, it all lines up. But I was like, did they just not cast those people yet? Because they aren't casted yet,
I
but they
don't
want to
know.
make sure they have
I
someone good.
think they already did. And she's wearing
Right.
a ring around her neck, Casey. Oh, no.
Oh my God, that's her mom. Um, so yeah, I was just gonna assume that because I was looking at the wedding, I was like, who's here? Because I saw the officiant person and I was like, do we know this person? And then I was like, we don't know anyone up here except Grandma Fern. And
You
they're
know,
kind of
Jasper.
Jasper was there too.
Jasper.
No one else. So that was interesting. But I'm just gonna assume mom would have been there, but
Yeah, I don't know
they just
why.
didn't want to highlight it because she hasn't been casted
Right.
yet. Want to make inconsistencies for
And maybe back then it was a thing to give the oldest member of the family, like the grandmother, the flowers,
Mm.
yeah.
not the
I
mother.
think
I don't know.
it might be a clue also. I want to assume she's going to have a bigger role, especially with Kat at the wedding, talking to her. That was another
Yes.
clue of like, but you liked this or whatever back then or something. And she's like, oh, well, you just haven't lived it yet. Or I don't know if she said it back
Hmm.
forward, but that made me think there's more between Kitty Cat and
There have
Grandma.
been too many accidental run-ins with those two for that to not
Before.
be something.
Yeah. She sang the song again. And we're like, what does it mean? Cheshire Cat.
It seemed so with it.
She seemed
And
alive. She
like,
had like
Right.
a Cyrus Goodwin glow up. Like that moment where it's like, wait, why do you seem so young and youthful right
why are
now?
you so youthful?
So fresh. Get a little toupee.
Oh my gosh. Okay, but yeah, Colton knew everything. We see so many different like parts of his story. I thought like one of the biggest shockers was that like he thought that Jacob wasn't missing. He'd gone in the pond. And like hearing that he had that thought and was wondering about that throughout all of that drama and paying for the investigators, which racked up quite a debt that someone came in to try and help with.
I got to talk about that character for a minute once it's time.
The time because seeing grown up Evie was a surprise that I did not think that we were going to get in this episode.
No.
I really didn't expect it. That healed a part of my broken heart, I'll be honest,
Yeah,
because
as to say, yeah, I
I'm
didn't hate it.
we all know favorite person, Evie. And it's just like, yeah, she was responsible, I guess, for some of her things. Not responsible, but like just, stuff doesn't work out. You're gonna get heartbroken. But it still made me sad just how it all ended up. And I was like, you guys are best friends. Like, she's not at the wedding. This is just awkward and sad. So it was cool. Like I think I said something that I wanted in this episode or coming up at some point, was to see more of Colton and Evelyn as adults acknowledging each other in some way, to just be like, okay, we're still, not that we're even friends, but like something, there's more substance here of where we ended up. And so we got that. And to see that she was so helpful too with like the finances and stuff was really special.
Okay. But I was thinking about it and it was like, why do we love Evie so much, especially after last week's episode? And I think it's because like Colton never gave her the respectful conversation that she deserved to just be like, Evie, like it's Dell. Like
Mhm.
Alice gave her the life talk and had to say point blank because Colton never said anything. Up until Dell popped along, Evie was going on that trip. Evie was moving to San Francisco with him. Like
Yeah.
he's dragging her
Okay.
along this whole time
Okay.
unintentionally. I don't think he had any like bad intentions of it and just like that is my best friend. But it's
Mhm.
so obvious, like you know it's more than that to her. And
I
when Dell comes in and then it's like, it's Dell, it's Dell. They never had that moment of just being like,
Yeah.
and she just had to excuse
Especially,
herself and move on. But then, like, still, is like, I care about you. You are so important to me. I'm going to show up for your family. And, like, you see that happen like 30 plus years later. And you're like, God, I love you.
That's why I love our format of show that we do because we've got not only a generational gap, but a male female thing.
Mhm.
Because I see it totally different. I see it as Colton, he even went to say it. I don't think he saw it like she did. She never had the conversation with him. She always had it with Alice. Alice never told Colton. Alice told Dell. And then
Mhm.
I think Colton being a teenage boy is just kind of oblivious to that type of thing.
mm,
And he even went to say it. He said, "You're my best," and she finished it, friend. And he's like, "Yeah, that's what he looked at her as."
Mhm.
He
mhm.
never looked at it as more. So with him not looking at that, I don't think he's seeing that reciprocation. I don't think
Yeah.
he's seeing her look at him that way.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I mean, there was clues, and obviously we saw it because we were supposed to see it.
Yeah.
But I think growing up in that situation, you know, I had really close friends of mine that were girls. If they had that type of feeling, I never knew. I never
Totally.
did because I looked at them as just a buddy friends that I just hung out with,
Mhm.
and I think that's what I always saw in Colton and Evelyn from his point of view.
Mhm.
Was it's just somebody's hanging out with, just having fun and, doing whatever, growing up together, especially that part. They grew up, you know,
Mhm.
for so long together that I just don't think he saw it. As much as we wanted him to, I I don't think he did. And I know you guys are shaking your heads. I can see it.
No, but
Well,
it's
But I
okay. You
just,
bring up a good point.
from
no,
that
it
point
is
of
a good
view, I
point.
think.
I
We
was
don't
thinking,
know what was known because there's
Right.
always, what do they say? There's always three sides to every story. Yours,
yeah,
theirs, then like the truth of it. You know what I mean? Like it's
yeah,
we can only connect with like the perspectives and stuff that we understand and stuff like that.
we really,
So when we see Evie's and it's like, oh my gosh, I get it, girl. You can't help but just be like, yes, Evie, you're the MVP of all time, girl. But again, that is like
You
just like
guys know why I'm chuckling about this in the
a
background.
little world of that understanding. But you bring up a good point that it's like that's what's cool about the show. And I think our conversations for sure, like you said, that everybody could watch the same scene and pull something different or connect with
Right.
somebody different. And that's why it's cool.
And that it's
It's a
cool
good show.
too that we see that in the comments on our videos too, is we're seeing a lot of different theories and a lot of different points of view. So keep those coming.
I like it. Okay. So yeah, Colton knew everything. Colton's so chill. It was cool to see them rekindle again, like as friends, but just know that there's such like a forever bond between those two of like care and varying degrees of respect depending on who you are and how you see the situation. Um,
Very much so.
So yeah, Colton is so important in this episode. We learned so much about Colton, but like we wouldn't know any of this stuff about Colton without Alice this week.
Hmm.
So let's talk about our other girl.
Say some stuff, Sven. I'd like to
I
hear from
I'm
you.
I'm at a loss for words. No, uh, just from the beginning with her in this episode, uh, I don't. I'm trying to think after rewatching it a couple times when the MASH game played out.
You don't remember playing MASH with Elliot in the
Yeah,
90s?
I think
Oh
that
my
was.
God.
Did they cover
Why do
that
you
early
remember
in the
that,
episode?
Kat?
We'll talk about that with Kat later, but just Alice, and it was fun seeing her how the episode started off with her the first time she went in the pond when she threw her bracelet in and then
Mhm.
fell in, and that started the whole thing. And it tied up all those moments together. And with
Mhm.
Colton's realization each time, wait a minute, this is Alice from the 70s.
Yeah.
And then he finally confronted her at the pond and said, "Why didn't you tell me back then
Why did you deny it when I asked you all those years ago?
I thought it would be easier.
about this?" And she comes right out and says, "I couldn't, I can't tell you things and this and that." And he ends up asking her anyways. And she starts filling in little gaps for him. Um, about Jacob, about, he figures out then who Kat is when she slips about her mom.
You see all those flashbacks come back for
Yeah.
him.
And it just, and then, but that moment when he realizes that Kat is her mom, he knows Kat's her daughter, and he says, "So you're my granddaughter." That look on her face and that hug when they're both their hands is
Oh,
like
she's not watching him from afar
no,
or watching his life from afar. Like that's like their first time where like they get that connection
right.
of like we aren't two different timelines of people and like just completely different like disconnected people. Like I'm your granddaughter.
Yeah, and yeah, that was we talked about before this episode about the actors saying the final table read and the filming of the final episode, and they were all in tears, and they were saying, "Bring your tissues," and we were expecting somebody to die or something,
For
or a
this
big
show to be
announcement
done.
that the show's going to be over. So they announced season 4 before the airing of the episode, so we didn't have to worry about that. Now that the whole thing in my brain was which characters are dying off on this
Mm.
show, but none did.
It was just
I
the
think
reliving of
what
Colton.
happened was more heart-wrenching.
Reliving a loss.
Well, I
Yeah,
also think like
exactly.
there's all this stuff with Alice's storyline with Colton in this episode, but the thing that like first sparked those tears for me was when she goes back to the 90s and runs into teenage Kat, teenage Elliot, and just gives them the biggest hug, the most genuine hug of friendship, gets emotional. Is like, you guys are my best friends. Like, this is so like you just see her back with them and you see like she's been dealing with the old current day version of these two chuckleheads for the past season and finally gets that like, oh my gosh, you guys, we're back. And just like you see how much all of these connections that she's made with all of these different people at different times in their life have meant to her throughout these 3 seasons. And then you get that little like snippet of like Colton reading Al or Colton walking in on Kat reading Alice in Wonderland, and he's like, "How many times are you gonna read that book?" She's like, "I just love it." She's like, "It's funny. Like, this is Alice in Wonderland, and her name's Alice." And it's like,
Right.
Alice is the main
And
character
that's another one of his
of
light
all of
bulb
this.
moments.
So,
But
like, it's just you see how big her involvement in that all of this
yeah,
is.
even the scene with Kat and Elliot. So that's at that scene that they go and play MASH.
Hmm.
And he's figuring it out. When they go keep playing the game and they say, you're gonna have one child, a daughter. And that real quick glance between Alice and Elliot, because Elliot knows, and they
Mhm.
can't say anything to Kat about it. But just that look, and then Alice starts the waterworks again, like, oh no, here we go.
He's just so full of tears between like Colton and Evie and like running into them and then wait, no. Talking about them? She doesn't
Talking.
see teenage Colton and Evie in this episode.
No, she doesn't.
But she like reflects on them and just like
Right.
how important they were. And then teenage Elliot and teenage Kat. And it's just like you look at this girl and you're like, your four closest friends are decades and or centuries. No, decades,
Decades.
not 1800s for you. I'm sorry. There's so many
Yeah,
timelines
yeah,
to keep track
she's
of.
everyone's
Elijah's
there.
her, Cyrus Goodwin's her best friend. Don't forget Nick. She's
So
got
many
5
different
friends.
decades than you. So she's just a little ball of emotions and you just
The only current timeline friends or whatever she has are her 2 boyfriends currently.
and one of them texts in all caps. So
I'd be jumping in that pond too. Be like, bye.
Now
Nothing is here for
remember,
me.
remember we talked about this briefly. My thought on the all caps is I see a lot of TV shows use that
Oh,
as a way to make it bigger and bolder on the screen for the viewers to read.
just do a tighter shot.
I know, well,
But I will
but that's
say,
the thing. So I don't know if we should take that as yelling, but they are very tech savvy, so maybe.
not yelling. I'm an avid caps lock user when it comes to texting. A lot of people probably don't believe in astrology watching this, but it's an Aries trait. So I'm just going to say he's an Aries, and we do it just because we're passionate about what we're saying. It's not anger.
hey, Alice, I
But
want to talk to you.
I'm saying that is not the time and place to all caps. You only do it when it's like not serious stuff. You're just like
Beginning a conversation.
I
not
mean, I'm with you on
weird.
that. I use it for emphasis because I don't know how to italicize in text.
Ooh.
Not
So
a thing.
I use that in place of that.
I don't know how.
Yeah, I don't know.
We
There's a
also,
way.
I feel like with this Alice thing, I just remembered one more thing. I'm just seeing her like feel all the feels, just realize how big all of this is for her. We also like get to see her witness her own power in uncovering and learning all this stuff when we see she was the one who pushed herself into the pond and dropped off Colton's sweater after getting it from him.
Who called that weeks ago?
You?
No, Sven Bishop.
No, you didn't.
I
Maybe
did.
Alice just pushes herself, he said.
Yeah.
And I probably went like this.
Uh-huh. You're like, as if it was Casey.
No,
It was
I,
Casey.
I think
saw
it was.
Casey.
I think it was one of your typical ones when I rattle off these theories where you just sit there and go,
That was a good one. That was very accurate. Mm.
Hmm. Yeah.
yeah.
Wait.
But yeah.
That scene was wild. Seeing so many, again, like unanswered questions and things that we'd been theorizing about, but also like had forgotten about.
The sweater.
The sweater, who pushed her in, like things
Right.
I wasn't even thinking about in episode 8, episode 9. Seeing all of those connect in like 45 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty entertaining.
I was really impressed with that writing. Again,
Right?
I don't believe. I'm like, there's no way you guys don't plan this all, every little detail out
Yeah.
with the first episode. There's no way. Because even like, but they're just so smart about how they choose to write it. Like the MASH scene. At first, I was mad when Kat brought that up. And I was like, oh, this feels so forced. And I was like, wait, Kat said Alice never goes back again. But then I was like, wait, that was not after all the time she'd been there. It's before. So Kat didn't know Alice
Was
hadn't
the
seen
last.
that memory yet.
Yes.
Like it all checks out. This is so cool. It's like so impressive, but it makes your head just spin.
Yeah, I felt like they did the writing like kind of like I've done in the past with writing like things for school and stuff. You write the beginning and the end, and then you go and fill the middle in. There's that luck. And you fill the middle in, because you need filler,
Uh-huh.
but you know where you started and you know where you need to end up, and
Yeah.
then you tie it together.
Yep.
And I think that's kind of where we heard the writers in the interview talk about a lot of times they don't know what's happening in the next episode is
Yeah.
because they're filling in that middle to tie it to the end. I
Uh-huh.
think they did have the beginning and end figured out, but not
Yeah. It's just
everything
those fine details are the most impressive things to me.
Oh my gosh, they tied some of those
So good.
Yeah.
One last thing to discuss with Alice that I think it's important for me to bring to the table. I am waving my white flag. I am officially surrendering.
Oh, you do have something in your
You
hand.
do.
This is my white flag.
Don't worry, I'll give you a better one in post.
I am
Thank you.
surrendering. Alice is not Casey's
Oh my
mom.
gosh. Finally, you had to hear it from Casey
10
themselves.
episodes, but we got there.
My first
Yeah.
reaction was, you're lying because you're not going to like spill the beans and tell someone their future. You're lying. You're lying. But I was like, nope, Cal, it's time to throw in the towel.
No.
You
Yeah.
were wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. And knowing that for
Proud of
sure
you.
now, it's interesting that she did connect with Max and was like, it was,
I'm not mad about it.
yeah. So
Gotta
like,
kiss grandma.
and it wasn't forced or like
Grandma's my bestie.
that. Yeah. So that's kind of interesting. And I guess I approve of their complicated situation or whatever a little bit more still. Like if,
About to get more complicated with all caps Noah coming back.
yeah, I mean, address it though. We have to like figure it out. Like
Yeah.
You get together and talk.
the whole thing was weird. The whole thing is
Alice,
I
it's me, Noah.
but it was just like, I miss you. I'm like,
We need to talk.
I'm not
Yeah.
yelling, I just love caps.
Which brings me to my next person,
Uh-oh.
Casey.
No,
Yeah.
okay.
I think it's time to talk about them. My first thoughts, I won't have a lot of substance to talk about. I just want to talk about the higher level things. Anytime Casey comes into a scene, lately it's been so random, like at the bakery, coffee shop, whatever it's called, and it's like feels so forced.
Walking around the property at dusk.
It felt that way again, and it was so bizarre. But it was like,
With Jacob.
I'm going to get all these things answered for you in this
Yes.
one episode that you've been wondering about for the past 9 episodes. Let me just spill it out in 30 seconds. Hey, did you check the oven? Because I stored something in there for you. It all felt so strange, but I was grateful to finally get
And
something.
how did they know the oven is just a
Ornamental.
decoration piece right now and not being used?
Right.
I
But
love how Casey started. I love also how I can't say Casey. It has to be Casey.
AC.
I love how they started the conversation with Jacob, and Jacob's like, yo, what gives? Why are you here? What? You don't just have random time travelers showing up on your front porch and you're not used to that? I was like,
Right. I was like, did you really just say that? What?
you've been doing a lot more spying and creeping around than we think you have.
and then
They
they
know a
say,
lot.
well, Alice caught me red-handed. I mean, he did.
Cat's out of the bag. I'm not
Right.
hiding anything. Let me tell you
Out of
everything
the
you need to know.
Yeah.
I did not comprehend anything that they said to
Yeah,
Jacob.
that's why I said
Like-
I wasn't going in depth.
I I got that whole gist of that. There was one thing that doesn't make sense, and we're going to talk about it because we're now going to bring Jacob into the fold of this whole thing. But okay, so we know about the will now, right? Is that the part you don't understand?
Everything.
Susanna.
Okay, so Cyrus left Lingermore and everything of his to Susanna. Susanna then wrote a will, and that is the document to give everything to the Landrys.
And that what was in the manila envelope, like the
Right.
office folder. Okay.
So Cyrus's sons rewrote the will, and back in
Ugh.
the 1800s, they could get away with that crap.
Mhm.
They rewrote it and took Lingermore for themselves, and it stayed in the Goodwin family up until now. It's still there. That's how Evelyn's still there, and everybody's still there. And since they took it back, got rid of Susanna in the picture, they praised Cyrus, and that's why everybody in town thinks Cyrus did so much good and blah blah blah. And they still have it, and they have all this money in the Goodwin family still, and all that.
It's just so funny because Kat and Susanna gave us this whole scenario last week's episode.
Yeah.
When Kat was like, Susanna, just rewrite the will. And Susanna was like, "Ugh, you're like, women in your time must have so much more power than women in mine, you foolish
think
girl.
that's possible.
Right. and like
Because she
failing,
knew she didn't have any power, and the Sons rewrote it and took it away. So
but
now,
she did it anyways.
right. And so now this document is here and it's proof. And according to her friend Sam Bishop, it's still a legal document. It's still binding. So that, she goes on to say that she blackmailed Lewis with it to quit trying to buy the Landry land. Remember how she said she convinced her uncle not to buy the land?
Yes.
She blackmailed him with that will because she said, I have the will that says Lingermore should belong to the Landrys. I will bring that forward if you keep pressing this, buying the farm from them. And so he backed off. Remember? And she saved the day, gave the check back, and blah, 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 or whatever.
So was it confirmed that that is Casey's uncle?
No,
Or it's
it's
still
just going by their word.
okay.
Casey said it, and we have to just, at this point, believe it.
Okay.
For no other reason. We don't have any other thing
Because
tying it together.
I have a
Right.
Casey theory.
So now we're going to get to your theory in a second.
Oh, I'm
So
saving it till the
now
very end.
Casey gives the will to Jacob and says, take this to Lewis, threaten him with it again to let you free of your attempted arson charges.
Jeez.
So he's going to use that. But she says something, and I rewound this multiple times to get it, and I closed captioned it. It doesn't make any sense. When he was looking at the will, and she said, and this is the quote, those letters, fine print, you should really read that. And then she talked about it'll get the letters to stop being sent to Dell. So I know we all have that theory. We'll talk about it real quick. Jacob went to see Danny. And they keep showing in the foreground an old typewriter. And we all think Danny was the one writing the letters to Dell. They were on an old typewriter. And that's where we thinking the letters are coming from, was from that typewriter. Because
Random.
it was very prominent in all those shots, right? But then when Casey's talking to Jacob and says those letters, it'll get those letters to stop by you telling Lewis you have this. I don't understand.
How does Casey know anything about those letters?
Right.
If
Unless
like in this moment, that will is going to stop them.
right. So I don't know if maybe Lewis is the one actually doing those letters from another time. I mean, I don't know. Whose house does Danny have? Is it an old house that somebody lived in and had that typewriter and did that? I mean, I don't know. There's just a million things.
That
Just
typewriter
because
was so surprising, though.
But that part made no sense when she said that. And if anybody out there can clear that up, please do, because I can't get past it and I can't figure it out.
yeah, I don't get it. And yeah.
I get the whole part about the will and then threatening him with it and the blackmail and hey, drop my charges and I won't bring this forward
Yeah.
and take everything you guys own. I get that part. But
But again, I'm so curious where Casey is coming from, like what time, and like what is happening in their time that they continue to travel back here so urgently for and are scheming around during this time with Sam, telling them to do things that are going to change things. Like, how does interfering with things like that and being so direct with like what needs to be done not completely change the course of the future time if that's where Casey's coming from?
right. Once again, when we get to the end, I have a Sam Bishop theory, but I believe somebody has a Casey theory.
I wanted to save mine to the end too.
Oh, okay. All right.
Okay.
Just
Well,
about
Maybe
Casey.
they'll tie. Maybe they'll
lots of
tie
questions
together.
with Casey.
Who knows?
Yeah, same. No, I don't make theories about Sam Bishop. You know that.
Right,
Since
but
he came on the screen, I said, I don't care who he is. He's not that deep.
Well, I feel like there's one last character to really talk about. with shenanigans of this episode.
Someone who likes milk and Cabernet and clocks. Because
and
that's,
has T.S. Eliot as their namesake.
yeah, that's who I want to talk about. Hopefully it's the person you want to talk about.
Elliot's the baby.
It's both of your bad
Elliot.
theories have been debunked or whatever the word is in this episode. Nick's not the baby, and Casey is not Alice and Max's son. Which son?
Child.
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 It's
Oh,
okay.
they set us up.
It's okay. But yeah, that ending part really just, I had to just sit there and think like, what? Nothing is in my brain right now. Like my mind went empty when they even had the little cap on the baby that made his ears stick out a little extra. So I was like, Elliot, like they're trying to make that Elliot. And then the letter from the mom. So we found out who the mom was, but you said it last week. So that was cool. T.S. Eliot in the
Right, that girl was
oil.
way too random to not be anybody important.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So that all
Like
checks
character
out.
from The Shining,
But
little ghost
what
girl.
important happened for Ellie? Anything we need to talk about other, or can we get into like, what do we think? Why do we think he is baby in basket?
Okay, so like he confesses his like undying love, and I thought he was 2 seconds away from ending it all with Kat. I thought they were ready to be like, it's not happening. It's not us, babe. And he's like giving this whole quote of like, gosh, seeing you in the 1800s, just pick up your britches and build your family home, just sold it for me. You are my person and I'm in love with you. I was like, oh, so that's where this is going.
Mm-hmm.
It just took going to the 1800s and seeing her be there
Yeah.
for Elijah. And
Another situation to get jealous of.
right.
Now,
Or just like,
I like that they both kind of owned up to some of the things that I think have been bothering us about the relationship.
true.
Like
True.
Elliot, see her for what she is. Stop trying to be like, well, was it like a season 2 theme mostly? Like, I don't know. He was just like, I don't want to be a part of this, but I'm kind of still, don't tell me about any of this, even though it's like basically your whole life. Like, just not really seeing her for who she was and what she was interested in. So that was nice that he like said stuff about that. And then Kat had some apologies to make as well, which I think we all think she owes. So that was cool at least to be like, okay, maybe they're growing a little bit, because I wasn't really ready for them to commit to being back together yet. We all know they're coming back together eventually, but I was like, just take a breath, like a breather, a break, something.
and speaking of commitment, Susanna's ring gets brought up into the conversation because Vic mailed it back with a letter from his mom.
From
Yeah.
Elliot's mom.
And that's the basket letter?
Yeah, it's the
Yeah.
basket letter.
Wow.
That was special.
But I like the line when he talks about the ring, and Kat goes, "Elliot, are you going to," like she thinks he's going to ask her to marry him, and he
Please
gets
no.
a callback to season 1 when she says, "Are you going to kiss me?" And he goes, "I will kiss you when it's right, when it feels right for me. That's when I'll do it."
I've been waiting a long time to kiss you, Kat Landry. And when I do, it's going to be perfect.
And he says that same thing about the ring and about marrying her. He says, "I will ask you when it's right for me to ask you," basically. And it was a good callback to season 1 with the kiss, I thought.
Yes.
That's
He's
a good catch.
way.
I will say.
But then she has to bring Susanna into the conversation.
No, but it's so special that should she get engaged to Elliot, she gets Susanna's ring. And that is so cute. Okay, now, yes, glad Vic gave it back. We finally realized he was the one who took it.
Yeah.
It wasn't a big deal, even though they
No.
made it seem like one.
I tried.
So that was cool, but it's like good. It's gonna go on the right hand. That's really special. But yes, the letter was written by Elliot's mom, T.S. Eliot. Um, and it's kind of a mystery to me. So I don't know if I missed anything, but
This is
written
what
to
I
baby
got.
Elliot as kind of like a poem, but like a forgiveness letter. You'll understand when you're older, kind of thing. Like I think that we see in a lot of shows. I'm so confused. Like, what's
Makes a
going on?
direct reference to like I jumped in the pond and like
Yeah, I
I
jumped.
have to out of here.
Uh-huh. So I have
I
my theories about this, but
yeah, I theory. I've
Mhm.
got a feeling that Vic and Elliot's mom are not both the parents.
Okay.
I think it's somebody else that's a parent of a different father. And this is where it gets weird is I I was almost thinking I was on the fence thinking it was Rick. Um because he is an Augustine. There's part of him that's an Augustine. Elliot is. And I got to thinking about it when the baby was left on the Landry's porch.
That scene was so weird.
Right. And Vic gets the letter that's written not to him, as Elliot pointed out, but it was written to baby Elliot.
Mm-hmm. I wasn't.
And I have a feeling that Vic finds out about it and goes to take the baby back to be raised as an Augustine. And that's when his quote comes up that the Landrys take everything, including the child. They
Mhm.
tried to take the baby from the Augustines. And he was pissed as hell at them for doing that.
Yeah.
He blames Colton for Rick's death. You know, the Landrys have their great farm and the Goodwins have all their money and the nice house and this and that. And he's just kind of, out there on the fringe. But that quote that he says that the Landrys take everything, I feel that's where it started too, was they were going to take the baby and he's, nope, I'm taking that baby and raising it in Augustine. And he may not even be the father. I don't know. I'd like to see how that ties in.
You think Rick
Well,
is
no,
his
that's an idea that Rick was dating this girl before his accident.
Pick
she's
me.
like 11.
Pick me.
Well, I know there's a whole thing, but
He's on
we
my
don't know
one of his
exactly
theories again.
how old she was when she dropped the baby by the pond either,
But like
you know? But
what we know of them right now
keep your
in the
thought,
year
Casey.
aftermath of Rick's
I
passing
know.
is we
Okay,
meet T.S.
don't
Eliot.
don't don't dwell on the Rick thing. That was just something going through my head. Casey, go.
I don't even know where I am anymore. But okay, so I think T.S. Eliot and Vic, because I said last week they would be assuming the same, similar age, similar
Closer
grade.
in age.
So because she appears to be so young in coils. So I think they are the parents of Elliot. I think Vic, since he's dealing with things, I'm assuming he doesn't deal with a romantic relationship very well either. Something happens. Elliot's mom, we see, seems like a nice person, like intellectual, emotional, based on how she's so into this poetry and whatever. Um, I think she's like, I don't like this relationship and leaves. I think she ends up having a child, somewhat young. I think something happens between the relationship. She wants out. She can't have this baby. I think she ends up with Colton's brother.
Samuel?
Is that the name?
I don't know.
I think he gives her a way out of the relationship. They jump into the pond together because there have been hints about Fern saying things like, well, if it's not, I wouldn't expect it to be Colton, but I would think the brother or the father or whatever she said in the past about having a connection to the pond. And we don't know anything yet about him. And you said season 4, weeks and weeks ago, is more about the family. So that'll give us that. And then I think they know. I also think this is a couple years after like high school and things. Like Dell and Colin are a bit older, like 20s, whatever.
Yeah, because they have a cat
Baby
already.
Kat is born. So whatever that year is, early 80s. No,
1980, I thought they said.
okay. And then they give the baby to Dell and Colin because they're still
Yep.
a couple. And
And that's why they already knew they referred to him as Elliot, like they knew him.
they
Like, oh,
knew him.
Elliot.
Because
And
when
they,
she said that, it was so weird. She's like, "Oh, poor Elliot," and it's like you didn't just meet this baby, but it's like, "Oh wait, you already know this baby. What's your
yeah,
name?"
I think she's got it. And that's also why they took him into their home all those years and treated him like a
Yeah.
son,
And then I think
an
Vic
eye on him.
ends up he might realize this baby was born. Maybe he never even knew. Maybe he finds out or something. But if it's biological, he would get custody of Elliot. Elliot does not want to go there. So I think the Landry still
Oh,
a good relationship with him, but that makes Vic even more bitter because it's like you take everything. My kid likes you better than me. So it's not that serious for like plot line, like deep or like confusing or anything, but it's
yeah.
still makes sense why there are those
You
emotions
want
there.
to know
Feel
the
it.
sad part about me bringing up Rick is
Ken?
I had pretty much what she just said on here. And then I
And
threw
had
Rick in
it
there for
when we
some
podcast.
reason. But I was thinking, yeah, the same thing. And
Yeah.
definitely, I think Elliot's mother witnessed Vic's abusiveness and
Yeah.
said, in some
Another
form,
reason to
said,
leave
this
Elliot
baby
with the
can't live with
Landrys.
him. Yeah.
Mhm.
And she knows the Landrys and how good they are and took him there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I think you nailed it. I think
cool.
Also, if you two are going to end up with each other, thank goodness for Rick for taking you back, Elliot, because y'all would have grown up brother and sister,
right.
More of that
if it's
incestual.
biological or not. You can't get with your brother or sister.
And now
Uh-uh.
we know they're not related with Casey's theory or idea. I don't think it's a theory. I think that's really what it is. Um, because she jumped with the Landry after Elliot was born by an Augustine.
Saw her jump.
Yeah.
Oh, wait. We saw KC jump independently, is what you're saying?
No, T.S. Eliot.
T.S. Eliot.
Oh,
She
by
jumped with
herself?
she jumped with a Landry.
With, yeah. Okay.
Okay, now
What did I
on this
just
same thing, somebody came by the pond, picked up the baby, and delivered it to the Landrys. Did that not look like Casey's hair and Casey's jacket?
Mm, I didn't even I might have zoned out for that part because I
Yeah,
don't
it
think
happens real quick. She bends down, they bend down, and you see the hair in the jacket, that tan jacket they were wearing,
Mhm.
and then the baby's dropped off on the porch.
Okay.
So I think KC is the one that takes the baby to the Landrys.
Not KC, it's Kat. Because Kat likes to meddle with everything. We know Alice wouldn't move things around like that.
I think KC dropped the baby off because Sam Bishop told her to.
Okay.
Okay,
Oh,
so
okay.
And you think Sam Bishop is Colton's brother?
Do you still
I
think that?
I kind of do,
Yeah,
but then
what's
again, I kind
Sam's
of don't.
theory?
I kind of think they gave us the misdirect by the pond. So here's my theory for Sam Bishop for the week. I think Sam Bishop is to Jacob even. That's how he was so confident saying, Dell, Jacob's going to be okay. I think Sam Bishop is to Jacob and to KC what Elliot was to Alice and Kat. He's not a time traveler, but he's the one they confide in, and he's the one that puts all the dots together. He's the one that keeps track in the notebook like Elliot did in their time of traveling. I think he's going to be the one that knows this or that and kind of helps people get to where they need to go.
For Jacob and Casey.
Yeah, because he's so confident, or maybe just KC, and she talks about Jacob, they talk about Jacob a lot. And that's why he's so confident on the phone as he's looking at the pond, like, Dell, Jacob's going to be okay. It's going to be all right. Just trust me. Like, he already knows what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Just like Elliot knew things that
Yeah.
happened.
Yeah.
And I think he's the one that they're confiding in.
Interesting.
And I think that's how he ties in, whether he's a Landry or not. Because even if you're a Landry,
No, we
it's not
can't.
guaranteed you can jump, you can time travel. It's if the pond needs you to at the time.
You can't date Dell if you're a Landry
That's
because
that's the other part. I don't think they would go there. So
yeah.
that's what's making me think he's not one.
Mm.
And he could still be Evelyn's ex-husband, and that's how
I'm gonna
he
say
knows so much.
my theory on that could have expired. I don't know all the fact checking, but I still like the idea of that being Sam Bishop being Evelyn's husband. Because it all from checks out from what like Max told us at the house during that one scene. And
Mhm.
they brought that up. So I'm like, oh, it sparks some ideas and it makes sense. So that's where I want to see that still
And
It
he,
go.
feels dirty to think about Dell making out with Colton's brother.
Yeah,
yeah,
it's sick.
I don't see that.
Feels
Because
wrong.
I also have a theory. I've been thinking this forever, and I won't end it even after this like closure episode with Colton and his fate and everything he knew. And it was a lot of like closure and nice things. I
Yeah.
still believe he's out there. I have no reason to think that really, but I'm like, why not? At this point, he could be out there. He could have it could have been his other self because he at some point did know that he wasn't going to make it because Alice told him. So maybe he put his, I don't know, his other self and his real self wasn't in the truck. I don't, but I'm hoping that's the case. But it is nice everyone did find a little bit of closure with it.
Whoa. I never looked at it like that. Like if he knew, something was going to happen, or he was trying to like cover as many bases as he could, trying to communicate with everybody because he knows he's going to
Mhm.
die at some point. He's not going to see Jacob again.
Uh-huh.
He's trying to connect all these things.
Did he ever go back on the pond?
Did he ever go back? Is he because he was in more than one place at once
Mm-hmm.
and the same time?
Yeah.
So he very well could have been a different version of him in the truck.
That's what I've been hoping for since we saw him spying in his blue plaid shirt the first time. And we were like, there are two of him. And I was like, the possibilities. Like, and I said in our episode, I was like, he knows. Go back and find it in the whatever. But like I knew he knew something, especially with the way he was talking to the kids in the past episodes, the weird phrases he was using, and like, come on, kids, live your life, whatever, like all this motivation and love. And I was like, where's this coming from? He knew more. So I'm still believing he worked something out.
It's great to have that
Intentionally
hope.
or accidentally.
Right. I
There's
don't
two
know.
different possibilities with that.
Yeah,
Right.
and it's nice to hold out hope for that, and that's a great happy
Mhm.
ending. But I always think back
What?
to George R. R. Martin. Remember him? Game of Thrones.
Yeah,
He said that if your story is strong enough and your characters are strong enough, you can lose some main characters along the way.
totally.
Right.
And I kind of feel that this is kind of that in a way that because losing Colton was a catalyst for so much of the show.
Mm-hmm.
And it's great. It
Also
was
called The
very
Way Home.
happy. Yeah.
What if, hear me out. This is about to get trippy.
Okay.
It hasn't yet.
What if
It's gonna get groovy.
Colton,
Remember that.
time
Yeah.
traveling Colton, his timeline overlapped with when he passed? And at some point, what if when he tried to jump back into the pond didn't take him his second part back? Wait, it's like Colton number 2 when there were doubles. You with me?
Yeah.
At the fireworks scene.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that.
What if when he tried to go back, what if the pond didn't let him go back and reset? And and he's just like trapped in some place. And what if what if Dell goes into the pond in season 4 and finds him and was like, oh my
I thought of that
God,
because I was like, this could just be the beginning of her
he's
travels.
been trapped in the past and the pond has been holding on to him so that he wouldn't be dead forever.
Yeah.
What? So, what do you think would happen if Dell now knows she can jump, but she's got to go with one of her kids or granddaughter,
Uh-huh.
right?
That's
So
true.
her and Kat go in, and they come out in 1999 or 2000. She finds that traveling Colton, and then they don't jump back in the pond. Can they now go live
They bring
somewhere
him
else?
back.
Can they go live their lives, the remainder of their lives from 1999 on, like in another town?
But she's like 20 years older than he is.
Mm,
How that
Um,
would check out. I
things are
mean,
getting weird. Things are getting weird.
so what you're saying is Alice can go back and date Nick.
well, yeah, we know that. Just like Kat could
No.
go back and date Thomas, but she'd have to give up her
That's
family.
a difference. That's good. Good stuff to think about, though. There are possibilities.
We
You
need to
never
put
know where it's going to go.
the Alice Nick thing to rest too.
We,
Unfortunately, we
we,
have
I will not be grouped in that.
unfortunately
No. The.
we and the internet have to just realize that Nick is a bucket character. He's in a bucket with Rita, with maybe Jasper,
A little bit of Jasper.
Yes, no. Jasper has more
Monica.
purpose than those
Well,
two.
yeah, but they're
All
not
these
core characters, but they're here intentionally when it's convenient.
they
Bring them in, choose to have them.
they help a plot line.
Yeah.
That's what they do. And
They
I
bring
think
the
that's what we
necessary
have to
glue.
realize Nick is. He's not a main character. He's not going to be a
Yeah.
love interest. There's no Nallis or whatever they're calling it. It's just not going to happen.
Okay, so this,
You made that up, didn't you?
No,
Yes, you
knowing
did.
I can't take
knowing
credit
that
for
that's a
that.
thing, I'm going to say not we, but yes, you and the internet need to realize now that Nick and the baby is done. That ship has sailed for me and Kelly for a long time. So you and Dallas can go off on your own.
Get
Didn't
gone.
realize this was a competition. Okay.
Get gone. Nallis.
Nallis is over, people. Okay, we're done with that. We all love Nick. We love Carrie James. But it's over.
Yeah. He might come back though, because we never found out if he was getting his house or whatever, right?
Right.
So we might
Still
see
have
him
no idea
again.
who Claire is.
Yeah,
But
who knows?
I don't know if we were meant to know. I think it was just,
All
one of those
right.
things.
Lots of
He's
things.
gonna move into linger more when the Landrys get it.
I don't think they are. I think
I know.
Jacob's just gonna dangle that in front of
It makes
Lewis and
sense.
be like, I
Yeah,
didn't burn nothing, did I?
yeah.
With that.
I didn't burn nothing, did I?
Yeah.
I didn't burn nothing, did I? Okay. Yes. Anyways.
So real quick, let's talk about the clock.
Okay.
Oh,
So
pendulum.
the pendulum I thought was a little complicated, but I
There's
guess that's how
slow.
they made some. Basically use centrifugal force, wrap around one, go to the middle, wrap around the. And Jacob summed it up. He said, "That's me in the past, being pulled to the future, trying to
Mm.
live in the present." You know, that made sense. It tied it all together. But what caught me was the thing that Elliot said about the poem. The poem written on the bottom of the clock was written in like 1936. It was in the walls, built into the walls in the 1920s.
Do
So
we
the
know
clock
those?
was already created with that poem engraved on the bottom, put into the walls 16 years or so, 10, 15 years before that poem was even written.
Is there like a blueprint that says this specific wall went up in this year?
I I think they allude to it and
I need proof.
we're not going to get it. You're going too
And I'm
deep.
like, they could have just put it in there later. Renovations, maybe someone burned down that house too when
They could.
Iris got mad.
And Dell could not be Dell. Maybe she's her twin sister. I mean, we can come up with a million different things for this or if maybe this that.
You're
But
under
we
cuts.
go by what he told us in the show. That house
Yeah.
was built in the 20s. It was put in the wall then, and somebody from the 30s or after that poem was written put that in there, traveled back in time to the 20s and put that in there. So we know there's going to
25
be
still
more
alive.
travel, and which brings up Fern and Kat talking about, and she started saying her poem about 25 again. So I think 1925 will be season 4. Kat goes back to see Fern. The
I would
clock
love
gets in
to
the
see the
wall.
20s.
That was cool. That's cool. I had in my head it'd be more 80s too. Do we still feel that?
I would love that.
I
It's
think
funny you brought that up.
I would like that because, one of us here is lived through the 80s.
I was born in the 80s, thank you.
I was not born in the 80s. I
Get some good
graduated in
times
the
in the
80s.
80s.
But it it I can see it happening. I mean, they've covered multiple years and seasons already. They've
25.
done 90s and 70s and 1800s together.
Mm-hmm.
I feel
Yeah.
like
I don't
giving
want
us
it to get too chaotic.
that glimpse of like a doll Evie and a doll Colton, I feel like that could have been like the tiniest little teaser that they're like and reminder to us that there's so much that happened in their friendship post what we saw in the 70s. I don't know
Yeah,
if that's just wishful thinking,
I
but
think
I don't think so. I think you're onto something.
I really hope so.
Yeah.
But I am happy with what I got for this past episode, just acknowledging it that they are still around and seeing her in I was impressed. Feels like when I got back from my travels or whatever, like she's well. She looks good, the
right?
house looks
Yeah.
good, everything is great. So it's just like this is okay. She seemed far more sophisticated and a little more like serious than I would have ever thought, but I would like to see that character be a little expanded in the future.
You picked it out so well though. There is this, I feel
Her
like
smirk.
we saw her, it was just like, this is grown up Evie, but then she like throws that little smirk out, and that was spot on. It was just like, she's still there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I feel like I wonder too if I mean after she, you know how she got kind of like now you owe me, Dell, like that kind of like more, I'm more confident and not this like oh, whisked away sad little thing. Like maybe she maintains that a little bit more with Colton too, that like serious, more stoic personality or something. I don't know. But hopefully we see more of that. I don't know. But yeah, I was hoping it wouldn't get too chaotic with the time traveling in this next season.
I
Because
can
this
see
one was hard, just bouncing.
I can see 20s and 80s. That's a good gap.
Yeah.
It's not like the 20s and the 30s they're doing or something.
Yeah. Or
So it's
1724 or
yeah, it's only a
yeah.
60-year gap. Some of those people would still be alive in the 80s that were there in the 20s as older folk. And, you know, that would really be beyond groovy because we didn't say groovy in the 80s
Groovy.
unless we were watching the Brady Bunch.
Killer. I don't know.
So when I think with where we leave off at the end of this season, we could talk for hours and continue this.
And
I
we
think
will.
we're gonna have to keep some shorts going now that the season is done to continue like these conversations and kind of reflect on like possible like where do we want to see this go? Like what are we hoping to see come out of this? What answers are we looking for? What theories were we so wrong on? Hashtag Dell's pregnant.
I was
Forgot
so
about that one.
We have so much more to talk about.
Can't smell my
So
breath.
if you are still at this point in the video watching and can think of any fun topics or like things that would be fun for us to continue on as we stretch out this season for as long as we can and talking about this season for as long as we can, put that in the comments because we've got some shorts. We've got some things that we need to continue talking about for sure
Yeah.
when it comes to the show.
And when Kelly says shorts, we mean shortened video,
Yeah.
not a
Vegas.
YouTube short.
why not? But yeah, like
Yeah.
these recaps, whatever kind of things, but maybe
We hope
not.
to keep those under 30 minutes.
Bite size.
We'll see.
But they'll be rolling. And maybe not every week. We might be on an every other week schedule, but we'll see how it goes. We
Yeah.
might get on a roll.
Just reflect on the season as a whole. Like, we're not done yet here
No.
when it
No,
comes to season
there's
3.
more to unpack. Quick question though, Casey, have we gotten to your big theory about Casey?
Well, actually, I thought maybe I would save it for the next episode, our recap one, and maybe if we do a what we hope to see in season 4, a little more focus on that, I might just keep it to myself.
Ooh.
Yeah, I'd like to see, and we're planning for those that, like Kelly said, are still here. We'd like to do a season recap episode, not just an episode recap. We'd like to do that. We would like to do one just on questions that we had, not theories, and then one on theories. I could see us doing a whole episode. Let us know down below if you want to see it on all the theories we got wrong.
Call us out.
Just-
I want everyone to call us out on
Yeah.
everything.
Just on its own. That's all it'll be. We'll all be waving the white flag on that one.
Hashtag Dell is pregnant.
Wow.
It was a good idea.
We were led there.
They set it up.
We
It
didn't
was
pull that
one,
out of thin air. We were led there.
Oh
it
yeah.
was one of those things that they
The
want.
writers are cackling at us.
Yeah, they're like success, just like Matt,
Gotcha.
like
Yeah.
they. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Just like I wouldn't say just like they made the whole world believe, including Alice, that Casey is their child. So
Yeah.
0 for 2, Kelly.
yeah.
Okay, so let's wrap this up. Who's your MVTT? Yeah.
Evelyn! Oh no, wait.
I mean, why not? No. Alice, forever. She is the glue. She is everything to everyone. She deserves everything.
I was gonna give it to Alice just because of her cry face. That was crushing.
She
But
is a dear.
but I mean, if you could give an Oscar to a TV show, this was it. But
Emmys.
I think, well, yeah, but I think this was beyond an Emmy.
Yeah.
Definitely,
Grammy too.
this episode has got to put them in that conversation for an Emmy. But my MVTT this week has got to be any interaction between Colton and Alice this week was just
Yeah,
top notch. I mean,
so good,
not
right?
only did it tie everything together, but the way those two acted together,
Mhm.
it just doesn't
They
get any
did
better on
such
the show.
Wow.
1,000%. I totally copycat you guys. It's Alice for me. And I think
Cat.
biggest reason for that is just seeing how much this is all meant to her. Watching, like, I tell it, like, that whole moment of her hugging teenage Kat and Elliot and just like letting it rip was just so. You just see this is so much bigger for her than just jumping in a pond and connecting some dots for her mom and
Right.
her.
Mm-hmm.
Just so proud of her.
We love you, Alice.
Wow.
So proud of her.
Yeah.
All right. So with that, we'll catch you guys next time as we keep on seeing where the pond takes us, where we need to go, not always where we want to go.
Uh-huh.
Well said.
Stay dry, stay warm.
And yeah, don't cry too much.